This story was sent to me by Caressa McKnight, and it's basically talking about the autopsy that's being done currently on Jeffrey Epstein. Now, we all know that they jumped out the window with that suicide line, and I and many others do not believe that this man committed suicide by any means. We believe that there is a higher, power at work here that had him terminated, so to speak, in so many words. Well, if the autopsy came back out and said, and first off, if they said it was a suicide or declared it was a suicide, the autopsy would show that in the report. But according to this autopsy report that's currently being done, it's in a gray area. Right now, they're saying that they are awaiting additional information. When I saw that, I actually replied back to Caress and I said, that's a far cry away from suicide. It really is. So if it was suicide, it would show up right there and they would just flat out tell it that it was a suicide. I'm going to put it like this. They probably have paid the person who does the autopsy, the coroner. They probably told them, look, I don't care what that report says, suicide. If you don't say suicide, well, let's just put it this way. We know where you live. We know where your kids go to school. We know where your wife works. Probably somewhere on that lines. I know it might sound a little bit dramatic, but hey, they probably said that to that person to try to scare them into saying it was a suicide when we know this man did not commit suicide. And if he did, he had quote unquote help doing it. But let me go ahead and read this article coming from NBC News. It says the New York City Medical Examiner's Office said Sunday that it had completed an autopsy of the financier and accused sex trafficker Jeffrey Epstein, but that it needed more information before determining the cause of death. Multiple people briefed on the investigation told NBC News that the suicide remains the presumed cause of death and that no sign of foul play has emerged in the day and a half since Epstein, age 66, was found unresponsive in his federal jail cell in Lower Manhattan on Saturday. Epstein was not on suicide watch at the time of his death, even though he was found in his cell 2 weeks ago with marks on his neck. Multiple people familiar with the investigation told NBC News. Now, that's a red flag right there, because he was supposed to be on suicide watch, and all of a sudden he's not on suicide watch. And then all of a sudden he commits suicide the day after these documents become unsealed. They think the public is dumb. Now, if this is maybe 20, 30, maybe even 40, 50 years ago, when you didn't have access to a lot of things like the internet, then yeah, you probably would have pulled the wool over many of our eyes, but they ain't fooling us. Attorney General William Barr said Saturday that he was appalled to learn that Jeffrey Epstein was found dead while in federal custody. I wonder why. Barr said the Justice Department's Inspector General was opening an investigation. Unfounded conspiracy theories flourished online in the wake of Epstein's death, many of them trying to blame the death on Donald Trump or former President Bill Clinton, both of whom are associated with Epstein in the past. Well, I would put more towards definitely the Clinton family. Not taking anything away from Trump, but definitely that Clinton family. The theories, at least one of which has shared by Trump himself, has no evidence to support the outlandish ideas. The authorities said at the time that they suspected no foul play. The FBI does not normally look into suicides at a Federal Bureau of Prisons facility, but a senior law enforcement official told NBC News that it was investigating given the nature of this case and out of the abundance of caution. Epstein's death came the day after a trove of court documents was unsealed, providing new details about his alleged sex trafficking. Epstein was arrested July 6th at an airport in Teterboro, New Jersey, as he returned from Paris on a private jet. He was charged with 1 count of sex trafficking conspiracy and 1 count of sex trafficking and could have faced up to 45 years in prison if convicted. He pleaded not guilty and was denied bail. It says a federal appeals court unsealed almost 2,000 pages of documents on Friday on Epstein, Ghislaine Maxwell, a British socialite and Epstein's former girlfriend. The documents relate to a 2015 defamation lawsuit against Maxwell by an alleged victim, Virginia Roberts Giuffre, which was settled out of court in 2017. Hey, listen, I wholeheartedly believe that this guy did not commit suicide. They set it up to look like a suicide, and they had him removed. But like I said, going back to what I said at the beginning, they are probably most likely going to slip a little bit under the table to that examiner, and they're paying them to say nothing more than suicide, because, you know, if they declared a suicide, there's nothing more to investigate. They just kind of shut it down right then and there. But y'all let me know what you think down in the comments. Do you think that they are going to pay that examiner off to say that it was a suicide, or do you think that the examiner is going to have a conscience and say what really happened in that report?